All right, guys. Today we're going to be talking about the higher self. Now, if you dig into my videos, there's a video where I spoke about the different levels of the soul. Now, most people, if you watch that video, is on the Nephish soul. And I'm looking down because I pulled out my books. Now, these are the books that I started when I first started my journey I started in 2006, but I really got heavy about 2012. This is another Kabbalah book. Just to let you guys know, I started my journey off in learning Kabbalah, Hermetic, Golden Dawn. So these are the three directions I went, and I just kind of like venture out. So these are the areas of the books I started. So you can really start whatever direction that you choose to go. There's no order. I just happened to start it off in Kabbalah based on I was fascinated with the angels, so it led me to Kabbalah. Um, and there's so much different information outside that you can learn. And this book led me into some more information that I wanted to kind of have a better understanding. So I'm going to show you the book. It's a little beat up, had it since 2012. And this book is called Kabbalah Magic. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Nephish soul, and I'm going to read a little bit for you guys. The Nephish soul is the animal soul. It's the lowest of the soul, and it's really the animal soul. So it's in the kingdom, which of Malakut. So it's in the kingdom, and when you think about and the animals, it's a lot for self, right? So most people who operate on the Nephish soul is for self, and these are individuals that may be undisciplined and a little bit more chaotic versus if the soul elevates into a higher level, right? So the goal is to become union with your higher self. Now, you see people and you see a lot of different people, and sometimes you may say this person is a beautiful soul, they have a beautiful heart, but they may still not be operating on the higher self, because the higher self actually takes a lot of work to get to the higher self. It's not something that you can really just say, I want to be on my higher self, and tomorrow you're on your higher self. It takes you literally disconnecting from the old self into the higher self. Now, there's so many different methods and steps that is recommended by a lot of people to get to their higher self. And for a very long time, on my spiritual journey, I would be like, how do you get to your higher self? How do you get to your higher self? And they'll be like, you have to get to your higher self. You have to become union with your higher self. And I never understood how to do it. So actually, I did activate my higher self one day, and I was activated on my higher self for literally for a specific period of time, and I did go back down to the lower self, right? And I activated it. So keep in mind, a lot of people will tell you, there's different steps, there's different methods, but I want you to understand, on your spiritual journey, your goal is to be the best version of you. And you can only be the best version of you by trying your best, right? And you have guardians, you have higher genius, you have a higher genius, you have guardians, your higher self is always with you, and they sit within your consciousness, right? And we're in the world of the physical reality, we're in matter, and they may not be in matter with us unless we seek them, right? And sometimes you don't even have to seek them, you have access to them at any. So, a few years ago, I had COVID, and my respiratory failed. I'm diabetic. I was in ICU for my heart because COVID covered my liver, my heart. They were concerned about my heart. They were concerned about my kidneys. And, I just want to let you, go into a little bit more about me. Now, I'm a seer. If you listen to a lot of my videos, you will hear me tell you I can see, I can dream, I get visions. It comes in whenever it wants to. So before I got COVID, 2 weeks before I got COVID, I had started getting death knocks. And at that time, I didn't know what was a death knock. But 2 months and a half before this occurred, I had quarter vision, and I had closed my eyes. And a lot of times when I close my eyes, like I can, either see into the higher worlds, or because my third eye is open, or I can actually vision things coming in, like things just comes in. And that specific day, like I closed my eyes and I was like literally standing in like another plane. So I was walking. As I was walking, it was like a building like on the right of me. And as soon as I walked up, I saw the angel of death. And literally my heart leaped, but the angel of death was like literally staring off into a different direction from them. And I stood back and I like hid, but I was consciously aware. So I just opened my eyes and I totally disconnect. So, and that's how a lot of my visions comes in, as if I'm there. So sometimes I'm already aware that, I'm catching a vision. So I just open my eyes and I just disconnected. And I was really scared. And I remember reaching out to my sister, and I'm like, and she's pretty spiritual too, and she can also see and stuff like that. And I had told her, I saw the angel of death, and I was like, do you think I'm gonna die? And she was like, no way, you're not gonna die. Hell no. She was like, I would have dreamed you. Because we normally dream and then the person passed. So I'm like, no, but it doesn't always go like that. You can dream someone gonna die, and it could be somebody's family member or somebody's friend. It doesn't always mean that, that it's that person that's gonna pass. And she was like, well, did you see yourself die? I was like, well, no. When I caught the vision, I literally was in that plane, and I walked forward and I saw the angel of death, and I hid. And she was like, well, you hid, so you should be fine. So now 2.5 months go by now. I'm laying in my bed. My husband was doing night shift. And I hear like a bang, like of 3 knocks. Now, at that time, the first thing came to my mind, I was like, it woke me right up out of my sleep. So I was literally petrified, because it just woke me up out of my sleep. So I looked at my my dog to see if the dog responded to this big bang. It's like bang, bang, bang. And the dog looked at like nothing happened. So immediately, within my own consciousness, I was told like that's a spirit. So I was like, oh shit, like I didn't know what to do. So I was scared. And I remember petrified. So a couple of days go by now, and it happens again. So at this point, I was like, let me reach out to my sister, because I need some guidance. I need to know how to go about this. I'm like, why does this keep occurring? And I'm a good person. I like to suppress. So I'm like, I'm pretend this didn't happen. And because I'm a seer, I have had, crazy experience before where souls came to me and try to, wake me up out of my sleep or speak to me. And I normally disconnect. I normally disconnect. I'm just not there yet. I'm just not there. And I haven't always been a seer. So, but as far as like communicating and with a soul, that was not something that I wanted to get into. I'm being honest. I just never wanted to get into that route. So, but I had weird experience. So this one was a little bit more different from the other experiences I had. So I was So when I reached out my sister, she was like, that's a dead knock. So I was like, I explained to her, I'm like, but I seen the angel of death. Why would the dead knock be happening to me? So she immediately got upset. I told you that you're not gonna die. I didn't dream you. I'm like, yeah, but at this point, there's something knocking on my door nearly every couple of nights, and it's about to be like 2 weeks. Um, During that time, my husband got really sick, and I remember teasing him. And this knock would happen all when he's home. Like he'll be in the shower, and I'm getting a knock on my door. So it started getting a little bit creepy, and I remember telling him, but he's getting sick. But at the same time, I'm suppressing. I'm suppressing because I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna. And I need you guys to understand this. If you're scared, you bring things into reality, right? So a lot of things are sitting in the etheric plane. But if you are a person who has fear, you're going to bring it into your reality. You're going to bring it in. So if that's not something that you want to experience, this is where the suppression is coming. This is why I'm suppressing. But because it's happening nearly every single couple of days within this time period, I'm like, you know, this is a very, because in my head I'm thinking it's a spirit. I'm like, this is a very strong spirit that has the ability to keep coming towards me. But like I said, I'm suppressing. So at this point now, my husband got sick, and I get sick, and now in that period of of me feeling sick is like the Friday, and then like the Saturday I even felt more sick. But I'm not even thinking about the knock anymore. I'm not thinking about the dream anymore. I'm just kind of like very confused at this point. So my respiratory failed. I can't breathe on my own, and I'm really just kind of like, my heart is beating extremely fast. And like the following day, I tell my moms, I'm like, listen, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I don't think I'm coming back. And I remember we had to call the ambulance because they had to give me oxygen because my respiratory had failed. And I remember when this was occurring, I immediately got in front of my altar and I was drawing a circle to do a ritual extremely quick. But I have always been a person who was very depressed in my earlier years. And I spent a lot of time in a very depressed, angry state. Um, and after getting this experience, it really changed me because although I felt like there was a possibility that I was going to die, I didn't really care to stop it, right? So I didn't care to get better. Like I didn't. Part of me was like, well, if you passed, you passed. If you didn't, you didn't. Because I was like in a depressive state. Like I think I said this in a video. I was a very depressed person from the age of 11 all the way through to my 30s. Okay, so my depression didn't go away until after COVID. Until the experience of me connecting to my higher self came in. So, so let's get back. So at this point now, I remember drawing a circle, but my mind went totally blank. And they happened to call the ambulance because I couldn't breathe on my own. So when I got to the hospital, it was kind of like in disbelief. Like, I experienced the worst time at this hospital that calls Brookdale. When I got there, um, they had me in the waiting room. They took very long to give me the oxygen, or even when they took me out, when I got into the ambulance, they gave me oxygen. When I got to the hospital, they didn't give me oxygen. So I was just like trying to breathe on my own, which was really hard. So I'm like that, And at this point, these people were just literally ignoring me. The nurses was ignoring me, and it just really didn't care for my life. And when the doctor came, she had said to me, "I'm not gonna give you a room." My husband She was like, I'm not going to give you a room. You have your A1C is not good. It's high. You have a stent in your heart. She was like, I'm not gonna give it to you. She was extremely rude. I kept saying I was hungry because at that time nothing could stay down. Like I was throwing up, and then I'm having the runs at the same time, and literally I'm just this is any and nothing could stay in. And they gave me the oxygen. My husband was staying. They told him eventually he had to leave. And about the morning, so I came in there the whole night. This like going into the second day is when they finally gave me a room. So we're gonna pass all that. So I get upstairs. The nurse is extremely nasty. She's like, don't use the stuff to call me. She's like, you wanna go to the bathroom on your own. Instead of giving me like the pan where you could just use it on the bed. She was extremely nasty. And at this point, it's like it was like so much. Now, prior to me experiencing this, my vibration was extremely low because I had just finished cuss somebody out the whole weekend. And I was like sad. I was sad. I was irritated. I was like, there was a lot going on in my life around that time. And I was still thinking like, I don't even want to use the word on YouTube, but I was still thinking very low vibrational. I was still thinking about like depression, and I'm still in that. And I think I told you guys in like previous videos, like I used to be a person that I didn't even want to look at myself in the mirror. I just hated myself. I hated me. And that had been like that. Like I went in and out of depressions many times, like over sad. Like I would just like wake up and I'll just be extremely sad because I'm just like mad about the trauma that I had in my past. So at this point, I experienced a very hard time in the hospital. So where these people didn't value my life, just like the energy that I was putting in, I didn't value my life. So when I started realizing like this was a possibility that I was gonna die, I remember reaching out to my sister and I had asked her, like, could you do an invocation for me? And she was like, I don't have any candles. And I remember like, wow, she doesn't want to help me to live, And she was like, you can change this because I don't feel like you're fighting to live. And in deep inside, it was like, I didn't have a fight. My fight to live at that moment was my husband being an emotional wreck and literally coming to the hospital, and eventually me not wanting to give up on my life because I didn't want him to experience the loss of me. But that's not a good reason when people every day loses a family member or losing their life and they're fighting to stay on this realm. But because I was a very depressed person and I was able to change my life through spirituality, I still didn't grasp what I grasped to this day. Like I had a lot of knowledge, but I didn't understand the knowledge. I didn't know where to go with the knowledge. I knew I could go with the knowledge to get a job or to get something specifically, but I didn't know how to apply that within my life because I was such a depressed person that went in and out of depression all the time. So I had a very nasty nurse that came in one day, and she was, my husband, they were telling him that he had to leave like at 8 o'clock or whatever. So my husband would come in and he would clean me, literally do everything the nurses do, because at this point they didn't want to get COVID and they were over me. They didn't want to be bothered with me. And security would come and literally kick him out. All right. So, and I needed that at that time because if I didn't have that, I don't think I would have had the fight because I already had given up, when everything was occurring, because my body was just like breaking down on me. I knew they didn't want to answer the phone. So I remember asking God again. I said, God, if you would only give me the strength to call my husband this time. And I called him and I got him. He jumped out of bed and I told him what was taking place. I don't know what this man said. I remember him telling me that, he said everything in this power. Literally that night, they came in and one of the nurses was like, why you have your husband calling me, calling up here and getting on the phone? She was West Indian. I'm West Indian. And she's carrying on with me. And I'm looking at this lady like, man, I'm trying to live. Okay. I got somebody at home that needs to see me, She's yelling at me because I told my husband that they wasn't answering the phone. Okay. So, to make a long story short, I'm fast forward. I had to prove that I could breathe on my own without the oxygen and walk, and this is how I would be able to come home. And eventually that occurred, and I was able to, my body started recovering and I was able to go home. Now, coming home was the most difficult for me because I thought being in there was difficult, but I didn't know I was that sick, right? So the fact that I came home and it doesn't have filters in the house, the air felt heavy. It felt like I couldn't breathe the air unless I was outside. The air felt more thinner. Like I felt like I could breathe the air. It was such a hard way to breathe in the house. And, I just my respiratory was still hurting me. I didn't have the oxygen, so it made it really hard for me to breathe. And I remember crying that I couldn't breathe, and I felt like nobody really understood. And when I came home, I saw people were just like moved on like with their life, like, oh, you was in the hospital, but like family was like, oh yeah, you was in the hospital, hi, bye. They never really understood how sick I was. So it kind of taught me a lesson to value life. My experience taught me a lesson to value life. And I remember one day, I had got so sick when I got to the house. And I remember my mom's asking, like, did somebody do something to you? Like, did somebody do a spiritual warfare on you? It just doesn't make sense of how sick you got. Like, we thought you was going to recover, but you got worse. And I remember my sister asking this question. She was like, I told my husband, it's like, somebody did a spiritual warfare on you. So I remember doing an invocation, and that's the start of it. So this specific time, I did an invocation through the 5-pointed star because I needed to get assistance, to get help, and I didn't know if someone spiritually did an attack on me. And I remember doing the invocation and being able to see who I'm speaking to when I'm doing the invocation, see them as if they're there. And in that moment, like, I made communion with the invocation. Like, I literally was able to see, like, the person is there. But I realized when I was praying for war. Like, somebody tried to do me something, and vengeance, and I'm calling him, and I'm like, I'm calling Archangel Michael. I'm like, sending your angels with the sword and take them down. And at that moment, I noticed that I saw my higher genius. He was not pleased with me. He was not pleased with me. And from his facial expression, he was not pleased with me. When I tell you my higher genius rode that whole sickness out with me, it's crazy. One night, I remember trying to breathe. I was choking I remember the medication was nothing but sugar, but I'm diabetic, so I ended up having thrush in my throat, and I literally felt like it was coming off my windpipe. But I was so scared to go back to the hospital because at this point, I'm starting to value life. I'm starting to realize that life is valuable. I'm starting to realize when I was on my deathbed, I remember flashing back to all the times that I didn't value life and all the things that I said and all the things that I'd been through that I felt like that it was so hard to get out of. I realized that it was small. It was like a small fish. It was like it was nothing in comparison to what I was going through and how at this moment I wanted life. And when I came home, I ended up getting the debt knock at home during the time I got home, as if the angel of death was still standing there ready to take my life. And with COVID, I constantly kept blanking out and forgetting how to do the rituals. I had to teach my husband rituals. He had to literally make the shit up in his own head and do whatever for me at this point. Um, and it got really tough. It got really tough. And once I invoked, my life changed drastically. I remember one night I was um, praying and crying, and I literally felt when the energy within my chakras came from my back. It went from my back, and in Eastern knowledge they will say the Kundalini activated. But I'm from the West, so we don't talk like this, right? Um, it literally the energy came. I literally felt like the energy came in, like something just entered in from my back. That's how dramatic the energy was. Took me off the floor and literally shoot up to the crown of my head and started pouring energy. When that happened, I told you I didn't even take insulin. My gifts activated. Literally, I would read my husband's mind, and know exactly what he's thinking. Um, I no longer saw the world the way I saw the world. Like, I really realized why my family um, didn't show me the love that I needed and the support, because I started realizing I hurt these people. And I had so much understanding then. I don't have understanding now, to how I saw the world then, because I had activated my higher self. It jumped into me so it can literally save my life. Like, my higher genius was there the whole time, assisting and supporting me through this. When I tell you that we walk with an army of beings, and you guys have no understanding of you walking with an army of beings. And when you try to be the best version of yourself, not a book, not a person in the world can tell you the relationship that you have with God and the relationship you have with the beings that stand next to you. Because if you want to see miracles, being the best version of yourself alone will give you access to your own guardians that surround you. You will be able to hear them, you will be able to see them, you will be able to walk with them, and you're going to know that these beings have the best interest at heart for you. And when I tell you, I changed the way that I ever looked at life ever again. Like, even to this day, like when I get scared, I'm like, I know my guardian, my higher genius, my higher self walks with me. And I literally sense when my higher self disconnected from me. Um, so I was like, my higher self was literally operating, and it operated for the time that I needed it. And once it felt like it didn't And once it felt like it didn't need to be there, it did leave. So, what I want to say is you can study as much knowledge as you journey, um, and you can try to be the best version of you when the time is right and you need your higher self, your higher genius, your guardian angel. They will show up for you. You will hear it. They will manifest. They will come through. Even when you think they won't come through, they will come through and they will protect you. They will. You can call on them and ask them to assist, and they will. When I tell you that day I was gonna die in that hospital, and I remember I had like a very, very crazy episode. There was a time that I literally felt like I died. Literally. Um, when my higher self left and I was back to the lower part of myself, I realized I didn't take insulin for days. Okay. And I woke up, I had a dream, right? So I dreamt that I was gonna die. So when I woke up, I felt really sick. Like my body felt like it was gonna give out on me. But I wasn't seeing the world the same anymore. There was like a disconnect of how I saw the world. And I was just really hurt at this point, like not really seeing my mom's, my sisters, like really just be there the way how I thought they were going to be there. So, I was back to the lower part of myself. So I was back to that depressive state all over again. So now it's up to me. It's up to me if I want to still value life or if I don't want to value life, right? So usually like something like that would send me like in the past would be like an episode of depression of nobody cares. But at that moment, I knew I had to fight. So I remember going to the refrigerator and I was like, there's no insulin. I have no insulin. I haven't got insulin at all. And I remember calling the doctor, and she was like a total bitch on the phone, so nasty. And she was like, "You are a walking miracle. You should have been dead. And you're trying to tell me you sat in the house for all this time and didn't call us to say that you don't have your insulin?" And I was just like, I couldn't bother with her because I knew that was to get me in a very low state of mind and for me to feel frustrated and angry. And I was like, I just had this dream that I'm going to die, and I'm a straight shooter with my dreams. Like, if it ain't me dying, somebody else dying. But dreams are deviations. They're not prophecies. They're not definite, but it's telling you that you may die, right? So, like I said, so had got the death knock. I was back in the house and I got the death knock again. So that means the angel of death is hovering over that house. So I was just like, you know what? I was like, I gotta fight to live. So I remember waiting. My husband went to get the insulin, and I remember one point I had told my husband, I said, if I feel like if I close my eyes, I'm gonna die. Because when I'm really sick with my diabetes, I literally feel like my whole face is just like pulling and I'm straining myself. And I felt like that, but I felt 100 times worse. Like I never felt like that. And I had told him, I said, you know what? I don't feel like I'm gonna make it. And I started crying. I was like, I had that dream and I feel like I'm gonna die. And he was like, yo, please don't give up on me. Don't leave, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, he was like, I'm just gonna go get your insulin. I'll be back. Just wait, just wait. And in the process of me waiting, because around that time my respiratory failed, so I wasn't getting any oxygen to my brain. So a lot of time I would just pass out, and I'll be passed out for like 20 minutes. And I probably passed out like 5-6 times. Like I passed out in front of my husband twice, hit my head 2 times in front of him. But like the other times that I passed out was like by myself And once it felt like it didn't need to be there, it did leave. So, what I want to say is you can study as much knowledge as you want journey, um, and you can try to be the best version of you when the time is right and you need your higher self, your higher genius, your guardian angel. They will show up for you. You will hear it. They will manifest. They will come through. Even when you think they won't come through, they will come through and they will protect you. They will. You can call on them and ask them to assist, and they will. When I tell you that day I was gonna die in that hospital, and I remember I had like a very, very crazy episode. There was a time that I literally felt like I died. Literally. Um, when my higher self left and I was back to the lower part of myself, I realized I didn't take insulin for days. Okay. And I woke up, I had a dream, right? So I dreamt that I was gonna die. So when I woke up, I felt really sick. Like my body felt like it was gonna give out on me. But I wasn't seeing the world the same anymore. There was like a disconnect of how I saw the world. And I was just really hurt at this point, like not really seeing my mom's, my sisters, like really just be there the way how I thought they were gonna be there. So, I was back to the lower part of myself. So I was back to that depressive state all over again. So now it's up to me. It's up to me if I want to still value life or if I don't want to value life, right? So usually like something like that would send me like in the past would be like an episode of depression of nobody cares. But at that moment, I knew I had to fight. So I remember going to the refrigerator and I was like, there's no insulin. I have no insulin. I haven't got insulin at all. And I remember calling the doctor, and she was like a total bitch on the phone, so nasty. And she was like, "You are a walking miracle. You should have been dead, and you're trying to tell me you sat in the house for all this time and didn't call us to say that you don't have your insulin?" And I was just like, I couldn't bother with her because I knew that was to get me in a very low state of mind and for me to feel frustrated and angry. And I was like, I just had this dream that I'm about to die, and I'm a straight shooter with my dreams. Like, if it ain't me dying, somebody else dying. But dreams are deviations; they're not prophecies. They're not definite, but it's telling you that you may die, right? So, like I said, so had got the death knock. I was back in the house and I got the death knock again. So that means the angel of death is hovering over that house. So I was just like, you know what? I was like, I gotta fight to live. So I remember waiting. My husband went to get the insulin, and I remember one point I had told my husband, I said, if I feel like if I close my eyes, I'm gonna die. Because when I'm really sick with my diabetes, I literally feel like my whole face is just like pulling and I'm straining myself. And I felt like that, but I felt 100 times worse. Like I never felt like that. And I had told him, I said, you know what? I don't feel like I'm gonna make it. And I started crying. I was like, I had that dream and I feel like I'm gonna die. And he was like, yo, please don't give up on me. Don't leave, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, he was like, I'm just gonna go get your insulin. I'll be back. Just wait, just wait. And in the process of me waiting, because around that time my respiratory failed, so I wasn't getting any oxygen to my brain. So a lot of time I would just pass out, and I'll be passed out for like 20 minutes. And I probably passed out like 5, 6 times. Like I passed out in front of my husband twice, hit my head 2 times in front of him. But like the other times that I passed out was like by myself So I remember this specific time, I got to chakras, the soul exit out, right? So there's the lower worlds on your chakras is like from underneath your waistline, and the higher worlds was like from the waist and up. Now, the highest part of the way the chakras release the soul is from the crown. Also, right here, the temple is where the chakras will open up and release the soul. Um, and this specific day, I'm still waiting for my husband. And I remember feeling like I was gonna literally die. While I was laying down, I don't know what happened. I literally felt like somebody came like this and yanked me right out of my own temple. That's how crazy it was. And it just felt like a current, like how the ocean will feel. Like if you was in a wave and you felt like the wave, it just yanks you and just pushes you and you have no control of this current. This like it's like a force, It just yanked me right out of that. And when I got yanked out, like literally, I remember like I was like just as black as this. I was in a place like the abyss, like a complete darkness. And but I can see my body. I'm like I have an out of body experience. I'm seeing my body. This current yanked me out of my body and I'm in just darkness. And I remember this all happened within a couple of seconds. And I remember saying to myself, like, yo, I'm dead. Like, in disbelief, like, all this shit. Like, I'm making my husband do a ritual for me. I'm doing a ritual for myself. I'm invoking, my higher genius is here. My higher self stepped inside of me. I'm dead. After all this, I'm dead. So I was confused, like, yo, I'm dead. And all I remember, it was two things I remember. I remember a spark, a very like electricity spark, like lightning, literally went like this and just hit my temple, the same place that I felt the yank. And literally, what I heard was a man voice saying, 1, 2, 3. And I went right back in my body and opened my eyes. And when I tell you, I was like, oh my God, yo, I just died and woke back up. When I tell you, like, my experience changed me into being a better soul because it made me realize that we can literally fight. And your guardians and God and all these beings that is in the favor for you literally have, and they can hear you and they can see that you want this and you can fight for another day. Now, I don't know how long I have, but I know that I was given an opportunity um, to live. And my experience is very traumatic, but it made me a better person and made me who I am to this day. Um, and I tell you one thing, off of that experience, my depression was completely gone. I healed my depression. I literally healed my own depression. I was a victim of depression for many years. Like I said, from 11, I was always being thought about, passing, you know, and that was what I wanted for myself. And I remember 16 and it's like, damn, like why am I still here? And go into my 20s and still saying the same thing, go into my 30s and still saying the same thing. And to have COVID and literally value life and see these beings move the way that they move and how they assist and how they've been around. And mind you, like I had